Time now for our Sunday group. GOP strategist Karl Rove, Susan Page of USA Today, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Karl, when you look at the split inside the Democratic Party over infrastructure and over passing a multi-trillion-dollar plan beyond that through straight party line vote through reconciliation, and also the clash over voting rights, how much trouble is the Biden domestic agenda in right now?
Well, I think a lot, and it's for two reasons. The first reason is that it's very hard to get these gigantic transformational measures passed when you have a 5-vote margin in the U.S. House and a 50-50 Senate. It's just all it takes is a handful of people objecting to a provision. Take a look at the tax measure. Capital gains goes from 23.8 to 43.4, and you got Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, Warner of Virginia, raising concerns about it. Taxing the gain in assets at death. Have got all the farm state senators and 12 farm state Democrat House members last week said we're not for that. Corporate taxes, international tax framework to raise $1 trillion. Right. All of these have Democrats on the record saying they got a problem. Second issue, time. After Thursday, the House will be in session 9 days through the middle of September, and the Senate will be in for a handful of days more. Trying to jam these measures through in a quick time with very slim margins is going to be awfully, awfully difficult.
Now, in fairness, we can say that the congressional schedule is not written in stone. It can be changed by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. But one, doesn't Karl, I know he's not rooting for the success of the Biden agenda, but does he have a point that it's going to be awfully tough when you've got this split between people on the center right like Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, people on the far left in the Senate like Bernie Sanders and Ed Markey? Isn't it going to be awfully hard to, one, negotiate this infrastructure deal as a bipartisan deal, plus the multi-trillion-dollar reconciliation deal? And there's also a possibility, as you heard from Lindsey Graham, the bipartisan infrastructure deal could fall apart.
Well, I think, stop the presses. Karl is right. I think, realistically, we've got a 2-week window here, Chris, until the July 4th recess. If you don't see some kind of bipartisan deal take shape in that time frame, I think it's not going to succeed. I think it's most likely to fail, given that they really can't agree on a price tag, and they can't agree, as Karl laid out for you, on how to pay for it. But the fact is that this proposition, the Biden bill, remains popular with the voters, even many Republicans. It's popular in the polls. The stimulus package that passed with just Democratic votes, it's still very popular. I think that's why it's good news that you have 10 Republican senators who are willing to sit at the table and try to reach some kind of deal, because they see that they have a political self-interest in showing that they're willing to work with the president. Unlike, though, and this is another negative, Senator Mitch McConnell, who remains 100%, in his own words, focused on denying Biden a win. But I think that right now, if you had to bet, you'd say this is not likely to come together. I will say on the Democratic side real quickly, the fact that Dick Durbin, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, and Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, a real strong voice among the Democrats, the fact that they're at the table suggests that they are making an effort to reach a deal.
So, Susan, you solved this for us. One, what do you think of the chances of this bipartisan deal? And, I thought it was interesting that Lindsey Graham said, I'm not going for the bipartisan infrastructure deal if they're then going to pass a multi-trillion-dollar reconciliation bill in a straight party line vote. So what are the chances for that compromise? And if it all falls apart, what are the chances that Biden can get through a big tax and spend package when you've got people on the center that are saying it's too much and people on the left saying it's not enough?
It's always safer to bet on stalemate and gridlock, but actually, I think these bipartisan negotiations in the Senate are pretty encouraging. I think you heard that tone from Senator Graham in your interview with him. 11 Republican senators, that is that is a stronger bipartisan showing than we've seen in the negotiations that took place in the past. And, you know, you showed Speaker Pelosi. She's been in a situation like this before with passage of the Affordable Care Act, where she had to push an unpopular version of that through the House in that final vote with a written commitment from senators that they would pass a follow-on bill that did some things that House Democrats, more liberal Democrats, wanted to see happen. And she did that. It's a hard thing to do. You have to thread a needle. But I guess I am more optimistic than the others on the panel that we're going to see a bipartisan deal get through and then a follow-on reconciliation bill. Now, it's not going to be $6 trillion. That is the Bernie Sanders wish list. But a bill that is $2 trillion, to follow on bill that's $2 trillion, that is still a substantial amount of money.
Karl, what are the chances and what are the risks to Republicans that if Chuck Schumer keeps bringing up packages that Joe Manchin, I hate to bring it down to him, but you kind of have to, that Joe Manchin likes, for instance, his version of voting rights, and if Republicans keep killing them, that Manchin and a couple of those other center-right Democrats might say, you know what, we're not going to kill the filibuster, but we're going to reduce the number of votes it takes to end debate from 60 to 55. Remember, it used to be 67. Now, then I took it to 60, so it's not the end of the world to drop it from 60 to 55.
Well, there's always that risk that with not only Manchin, but Kristen Sinema, who's expressed a opposition to changing the rules. You also have others who've expressed concerns about changing the filibuster. Dianne Feinstein made some comments recently. Jeanne Shaheen, whom you mentioned, expressed concerns about changing it. But yeah, we run that risk. But I would support Susan. I'm reasonably optimistic about getting a infrastructure bipartisan agreement. We also saw last week a bipartisan bill on challenging China. We are likely to see bipartisanship on a Dreamers bill, and Lindsey Graham put his finger on it. We can get a bipartisan police reform bill. There may be enough, if you take it all, step back for a moment and take a look at it, that the Congress is doing enough in a bipartisan fashion that that these extreme measures that the administration is pushing, $4.2 trillion in new taxes. And you're right, Bernie Sanders is $6 trillion, but the administration is not far behind.
All right, panel, we're going to have to take a break here. We will see you later in the hour.